Well, Pat suggested it. He said he wanted to do it. And I thought to myself, that'd be an awful lot of fun, because I've had a great deal of respect for Lester Wolfson. I mean, he was just a fantastic chancellor, I thought. There was a wisdom to him about everything he did, and particularly, what I think is important, is that he had a real passion for the arts. But this is the kind of thing I do. I mean, this is my life, is making commissioned sculptures. Very often people tell me what to make. Well, to start a bust like this of Lester Wolfson, a lot of people would do sketches and thumbnails and things like that, but I don't. This is not so big that I can't just go right at it. So I got a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do by looking at a lot of pictures of him. All it is a matter of take a board, build a pipe on it, and put some wires on the top, which I always do, and then start packing on the clay. And then spend a fair bit of time on the gesture of the head, because people communicate so many ways. One of them is with words, but as we all know, body language. And the gesture of the head, the way the head is held, is so important. And so once I get those sorts of balances happening, then I can begin to get in more of the detail and start to work on the coat and work on the hair and so on, and work on the eyes and mouth. We have an amazing capacity to look at faces and remember them. You can see somebody at a party, and a year later, you haven't seen him since, a year later, didn't I see you at so-and-so's party? And yet all faces are pretty much the same. 2 eyes, nose, mouth, chin, forehead. We can spot the most subtle differences. And not only that, but you can spot differences down to 1/64 of an inch. If a person narrows their eyes just a little when you're talking to them, you know they don't believe in you. That sort of thing. But the tiniest little nuances we're so attuned to. We read them so carefully. When you're finished and you think it's right, we have to cast it in bronze, and casting it in bronze really means the lost wax process. If you took an empty coffee can and you filled it full of liquid plaster and you stuck a candle in it and let the plaster go hard, you got a coffee can with plaster and a candle. Turn it upside down and put it in an oven and heat it up real hot, and what happens? The wax melts and runs out. Turn it over, you've got a coffee can with plaster with a candle-shaped hole in it. Pour molten metal in that hole. The metal will cool and solidify. You break the plaster off, you've got a metal candle. You've replaced the wax with the metal. And that's what this is. So this is wax, it's him, you see, and it's hollow. You can reach right up in there, because the bronze is going to be hollow. After that wax has been kind of cleaned and tidied up and little pits filled and any little problems fixed, then what you do is we take a mixture of plaster and sand, and we brush it all over it in several layers to build an initial coat. And then that goes into a great big basket and is filled up with plaster and sand to make a block, a big block like that, which is called an investment. And the wax burns away, and when that comes out of the furnace and sits there on the ground, it will have a cup in the top with a channel leading down, and inside will be a Lester Wolfson shaped hole and a slightly smaller Lester Wolfson shaped mass of plaster just suspended in that hole. So when the bronze goes down that cup and down through those channels, it fills that sort of gap, that thin gap. So he comes out hollow, you see. And then we will sandblast him, make him absolutely clean, and then apply various chemicals that will darken him a little. Sculptors today will make this mold and make this wax over here, and then they will ship it or drive it to a commercial foundry, a commercial sculpture foundry. Many sculptors that I know don't even make the rubber mold, they'll just make the clay. And then somebody else will make the mold, and somebody else will do all the wax and all the rest of it. Normally, a bronze sculpture is marked. They'll put some marks back here. Sometimes they'll put down AP, which means artist's proof. But I've been taking lately to putting down AC, which is my little marking, which means artist cast. The artist did the whole thing from start to finish. And I like doing that. I enjoy that. I do feel closer to the piece when I've cast it myself and done every little bit of it. Welded any little holes and ground off any little bits and restored or repaired anything, because you always have to do some of that. So I feel like I'm sending little time capsules forward, like space capsules, but they're time capsules going forward. And people will be looking at this thing many, many years hence, I don't know how long, maybe they'll ignore it, maybe they won't, maybe they'll wonder, who was this guy? You know, he has a kind of interesting look to him. Who was he?